happy to introduce the speaker, Jeff Davis and his wife Deb. They've been friends for as long as I've been in Prescott, which is from about 1983. Deb was a teacher at Malone School when I was working there too, and we just have really cherished the friendship, and I'm happy to invite them to come. Jeff is a wonderful photographer, and this has been an avocation with him for many, many years. He is a civil engineering by training and worked in that for 40 years. But now he has a lot more time for his photography, and he just has a passion for it. And you'll see that today in the pictures he's going to share from a recent trip that Deb and Jeff took to Iceland, which I think today is warmer there than it is. So you're going to enjoy these pictures. I've seen a few of them already. Anxious to see them on a bigger screen now, and we appreciate, Jeff, you formulating this into a program and coming to share, and I want you to share a little bit more about photography. Jeff has actually a little professional card and things that you can share, or you'll talk about your little, what's it called, light? What's your little business called?
And his light studio.
Light studio, yeah, in photography. So we're looking forward to this. Thank you so much for coming, both Jeff and Deb.
I appreciate the invitation, and if you would handle the lights, that'd be okay. I'm ready. So a little bit about me. I started shooting photography in earnest in 2013. In my unretired life, I spent 40 years in engineering. I am a somewhat reluctant traveler until you put a camera in my hands. So I'm a photographer first. That is my passion. I share this quote with you that I came across somewhere in my reading. In color, you capture the clothes. In black and white, you capture the soul. And I think there's some great truth in that. These are just a couple examples of photography. I love this because if you can see the eagle, it's actually leading the towboat down the river. This one, I mean, in black and white, the colors just make it pop. But I have to say, these are some rustic cabins that we came across on a trip in Alaska, and you know, the black and white makes it even more rustic than what it made. That's just a recent trip that we took to New Orleans. That is a 10-foot gator based on our guide. So we didn't get close enough to measure. And this is our 16-month-old granddaughter, and just the expression on her face. All right. So sometimes timing is everything in photography, and a little extra help never hurts. This is just a photo that I took of the Hastings Bridge. It is stationary. I've tried to replicate this photo a number of times, and you never quite get the same light, the fog, whatever conditions. So photography is unique to the site and to the moment. This photo, a week before I shot this, I said a little prayer. Said I would like to see a hawk sitting right at this location. Many mornings I'm out shooting the sunrise, and a week later, I've got this field eagle in that very location. So, if you're traveling I've got a number of Q photos in my presentation. So if you are traveling, Iceland is one of the top 5 destination spots for vacationing. Deb's niece, Katie, recommended that we get there before it becomes too hot of a location. There are many different people, many different languages, so if you intend to go, now is the time. The guy on the right is Stefan. He was our tour guide for most of our tour, and Maggie, our bus driver, and John, our tour manager. Why is this important? Well, this is John standing on the street corner, and he was looking for adventure. And if you can see the bus, the adventure just passed him by. So, this is just a shot of some typical architecture that you would see in Reykjavik. So I've also got some stats. When we were there, fuel was $8.25 a gallon. Domino's pizza, a large pizza, was $30. And that was no breadsticks. A bowl of soup and a bit of bread, $15. We found that the costs were at least twice that of what we would experience in the U.S.
Is it because it's so hard to get it there, or?
I assume.
Why?
Yeah. Let's say, much of everything is imported.
Okay.
So. This is just another shot of some architecture. This is actually across the street from our hotel. If you can see on the far right side, there's a tower crane in the background. There is actually quite a bit of construction going on in Reykjavik. See, Marriott is building a large hotel in downtown Reykjavik, so I think that is kind of an indicator that tourism is definitely picking up.
What month were you there?
I'm sorry?
What month were you there?
We were there in October.
Yeah.
And what season is that for them?
What was
What
it?
What season, what
Yeah.
weather?
Fall, is it fall there too? or-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into that just a little
Okay.
bit. This is just a shot down at the harbor. And in the foreground, you can see all kinds of rock. And there were many little rock or stone totems that were all over the place. Why, I don't know, but they were there. So. And we're off to the Viking Museum. And just another shot of a sculpture down along the waterfront. This one I thought was great, simply because of the landscape and the structure itself. A shot of the replica of a Viking ship. And with the ships come the mast, the ropes, the sails. So life as a Viking in 700 AD was pretty tough going. This guy looks pretty beat up. So I went looking for somebody that I thought, actually represented a Viking. But I never found one in Iceland. This guy I caught in Ketchikan, Alaska.
Is that Willie Nelson?
This is just a shot of the tour route. We spent most of our time, we spent all of our time on the southern coast of Iceland. The island is much more rugged in the North Country. So the government is socialistic, population about 350,000, 38,700 square miles as compared to the US with 3.54 million. This is the Performing Arts Center down near the waterfront. At night, there are all kinds of different colored lights that would be flashing, kind of dancing through the exterior. And as a photographer, I love this photo. The contrast, the lines, I mean, that's, okay, I'm proud of that one. Here we're looking at through that glass facade, and in the center here, you can see the tall spire. That's kind of a landmark in Reykjavik. So if you get lost, you look for the spire, you have an idea, where you're at. That happens to be the steeple at a large Lutheran church. Most of the folks there are Lutherans. I believe that there is one Catholic church in Reykjavik. They were providing tours up to the steeple, but there were so many people waiting in line, we didn't venture up. So, what do Lutherans do? Have in their church are big pipe organs. They were very proud of this. It has over 1,000 pipes in it. So I'm not Lutheran, so it doesn't mean that much to me. Iceland is non-European Union. Immigration is not necessarily encouraged. This is based on our tour guide. They do need workers, however. It's easiest to immigrate from Europe. All other countries, you would be required to have somebody, let's say, you would have to prove support, you would need a sponsor, and they aren't looking for freeloaders. There's just another shot down toward the waterfront, and there are many different tower cranes off on the right-hand side. They're using a lot of modular construction, so they would, the units would be formed off-site, brought to site, and then placed in the construction. Now, every building is referred to as a house in Iceland. So this is one of their 20-story houses. So the university in Iceland decided to import coniferous trees onto the island just to see if they were compatible. They were, and they grew. The native Icelanders, however, said, get them out. They considered them an invasive species. The government had to get involved, and they decided, what you've imported to this point is okay, but no more. So this is just a kind of a landscape view of the, you can see in the foreground the coniferous trees, and just kind of a little different perspective. So now we're off to Gullfoss, or the falls. The average discharge is 4,900 cubic feet per second. They have had flood conditions where the discharge through the falls was 71,000 cubic feet per second. All of this is, let's say the majority of the water is glacial meltwater. Just a close-up, and granted, you always got to have a black and white photo of something that impressive. So. Okay, Q photo. The average temperature, summertime temperature in Iceland is 55 degrees. The average winter temperature is 25 degrees. So they should be calling this area Iceland. So these are just a few shots of the level of safety that you would typically experience when you're out hiking. We were told specifically not to expect the same level of safety features that we would typically see here in the U.S. That's just a piece of rebar with a loop on it and a rope to kind of define the trail. Off to Skogafoss. The drop here is about 200 feet. The roar was somewhat deafening. That's just a shot of the landing zone. And this is a little bit small, but my wife, this is actually a photo from her iPhone. A number of folks decided to walk up under the falls. I didn't want to get my camera wet, so I stuck on the other side, but this is very good.
Very good.
And, you know, when you have that much water vapor and all that sort of stuff in the air, you'll get a rainbow. So. Okay, so when you have that much geothermal activity, all that sort of stuff, you definitely have the geysers. Kind of what you would expect with, you know, water vapor, that sort of stuff. And this particular geyser would go off every 10 minutes. We were told specifically not to stand downwind, otherwise you would get a very hot bath. This is the area just north of the geysers, and I loved it because of the landscape. You can also see a number of cabins, cabins or cottages in the lower portion of the photo. Cabins and cottages are a very big thing for folks in Iceland. They like to get away for their weekends, just like we do here. And so there are some similarities. Now, I have to admit that I don't know what this is. We happen to be walking back to our bus, and it was something to do with wrestling, but you can see that the guy on top has a hold of the other guy's underoos, and that's as far as I want to go. But I was right there, and so. Now we're off to the geothermal power plant. I actually grabbed this photo off their website. So they do tap into the geothermal energy via the groundwater. The plant is currently capturing an equivalent 400 megawatts of energy from the groundwater. They're actually able to then transmit 303 megawatts from this plant. And I love this photo just because of the lines and the contrast. This happens to be the front facade of the museum. This is what the Icelanders were living in. A sod building, sod house. This is a shot of one of the structures, A-frame, but it kind of gives you an idea as to what the living conditions were. And the stable. Another sod roof structure. Don't pay attention to the person in the window there. And okay, as an engineer, I like the to figure out how the mechanisms and all that sort of stuff work. That's simple. Okay, so Iceland has the, at least so I'm told, the purest population in the world. And I'm not sure if that's going to change with immigration. They have the purest sheep stock in the world. They export sheep. They do, however, not import sheep. And the same with their horse stock. And this is the national animal, and there's sheep all over the place. We did have lamb a couple different times, and it's actually pretty good. And with those sheep, you got spinning wheels. All right, this photo is shot just outside of Prescott. In Iceland, the farmers, if they are supporting various causes, you may see pink, blue, green, and yellow wrappers on their hay bales. That is an indication of what they may be supporting. In pink is cancer. There may be some other organizations associated that they do have the white ones as well. So. My wife really found this interesting. So, if you only have one kind of shoes, and everybody's shoes look the same, when you go to a meeting or go to church or whatever, how do you know which shoes are yours? So the women would then make these woolen insoles. They would stick in the shoes, have their own design, so you could walk up and say, oh, there you go, slip them on, take them.
That is pretty cool.
That is cool.
That is really cool.
Okay, I do a little fishing. These hooks date back to 1100 AD, and I don't think that the technology has really changed all that much. The largest hook there, I think, was 7 or 8 inches long, and that meant something to me. So it's not a great photograph, but and the Icelanders apparently had time on their hands. There was quite a bit of carving that was going on. And these are just some nautical items that, okay, so my son-in-law is really into Halloween, so I figured that this may be something that I could share with him. What it is, I don't know, some sort of sea creature. So. Okay, so we're off to the tomato and horse farm. There was a couple that we were introduced to. The man of the family was into tomatoes. Well, you know, the maximum temperature you're getting, or average temperature, is 55 degrees. So you're not going to really be growing tomatoes outdoors. So there were a number of buildings that had all the lights. They were using hydroponics, so there's no soil involved. They had an extensive distribution system for water, supporting the vines, all that sort of stuff. It was actually quite interesting. We did have an opportunity to taste cherry tomatoes, which were very sweet. There are 6 different types of Bloody Marys that they will make for you. Tomato soup, tomato beer, and it was actually a quite interesting process. And they're growing, 24/7. So the wife in the family is into horses. This is an Icelandic horse. They have 5 different gaits. I happen to be standing down on one end of the arena, and this gal was taking the horse on the track, running it through the various gates. So I noticed a mug of beer on a fence post down at the far end, and I was keeping an eye on it, of course. They do have good beer there. We can talk about that in a little bit. But so she rode down, grabbed a beer, went down to the far end of the arena, and it looked like a trot, but it was relatively fast, very smooth, and she was holding a beer out in her hand. Didn't spill a drop. And so when she got done with that pass, she came down to the end where I was at, and I asked her if it was tomato beer, and she said, no, I would have spilled that on purpose. So, these are what are referred to as sea stacks. the magma would force its way up into the overburden. When that is then washed away, eroded away by either water or wind, this is what you get. And that's just a shot of the ocean. Okay. There is no surfing that I know of going on in Iceland. We were warned, though, by our guide that occasionally there are sneaker waves that come in, 20 to 25 foot waves, where the energy is generated at a great distance. They come in, and if you are near the water's edge, you may take a trip you don't want to into the ocean. So we were told to pay specific attention to what's going on out in the ocean. I'm not sure we would have had time to really react. The waves were breaking fairly close to shore. So. And our guide, this is Stefan, he was always on high ground whenever we were near the water. So we were taking that seriously, I think. So I went to a couple different sources. One source was our guide, another to Wikipedia. The income taxes are actually quite high in Iceland. Wikipedia says the average is 46.3%. I was told that there's a range from 36 to 46%, plus various fees, whatever. Property taxes, they only tax the structures, not the land that it's sitting on. And our guides, we had two of them, one in Reykjavik for 1 day, and then Stefan was with us for about 5 days. They both said that there's really not much left after the essentials are covered. Now, they have free education and free medical care. Stefan has 7 degrees, speaks 4 languages, and he said that based on the current situation in Iceland, when he retires, he'll be living $2,500 to $2,000 to $2,500 per month, and that is it on the government. This shot is just of the mountainside. We were told a number of times that if you're into Game of Thrones, that you can actually get on the internet and track as to where they shot the various scenes on the island. I love this photo because of the various contrasts, and of course the little red Lutheran church in the valley. This is just a landscape shot. In the foreground, there is a lava field, and you can tell whether you're on the north side or the south side of the island. On the south side, because of the winds and the moisture content, it's constantly dropping rain, so the moss is growing, and the lava fields are green. The north side is much more rugged. So we did take rain gear. Had a great weather. We would experience rain, mist, snow until we get off the bus, and the clouds would break. We had 1 day of rain. Fortunately, we were inside that day. So this is our group. We're heading off into the foothills for a hike. This is just the scenery that we were experiencing there. A lot of scrub trees, scrub brush. We're hiked up to the falls, colored black and white. See, my favorite is the black and white. So. Yeah, this is the only livestock that I really saw with a camera in hand, and that happens to be a redwing. So I did have a photo following this one of the Icelandic lion. but if you went to Iceland, you would never see it. So they were that rare. I hope you didn't believe that. Okay. So Iceland was on a schedule that they would have an eruption some years back every 6 years. Then it went to 5, 4, 3. We were there in October of 2018, and that was year number 3 in the cycle. So I would like you to remember twice the flow of the Amazon for 3 days and cut off 30 days from civilization. This is a shot of what I refer to as an outwash plain. In 2015, there was a volcanic eruption under a glacier upstream from this location. And for comparison purposes, the stream in its current condition, I would guess it was flowing maybe 150 cubic feet per second. The average flow in the Amazon is 7.5 million cubic feet per second. So this area experienced a flow of 15 million cubic feet per second for 3 days. When that lower portion of the glacier let loose, it could no longer hold water. It was melting because of the volcanic eruption. And so it cut off the area east of here for direct contact to civilization for 30 days or more. And when we were there, they were still rebuilding bridges and stabilizing the highway embankments as a result of that flood. This is as close as we got to a volcanic eruption. It is a large photograph in an outfitter's store. So that's as close as I wanted to get. Because Iceland is the land of fire and ice, I figured I should bring a little fire. Deb's niece, Katie, shot this aerial photo of Kilauea in early 2018. We would have experienced something like that, but we didn't. This is just a shot down by the shoreline. We weren't looking for those sneaker waves. And I just, from a photographic perspective, I love this one because of the mist coming off the waves and the sea stacks in the background. And so. Now we're off to the Glacier Lagoon. This is looking east out across the lagoon. I'm sorry, that was looking west. This is looking east, and great landscape and contrast in light and colors. The glacier is actually back here. So these icebergs would break off into the lagoon, float down toward the outlet. This is what the face of the glacier would look like. We did not get close enough to the glaciers to take these photographs. These are actually from Glacier Bay in Alaska, and that, let's say the ice coming off that and ending up in the drink there is referred to as a growler. We did not experience...
You took that picture when you were in Alaska?
Excuse me?
Did you take that picture when you were in
Yes.
Alaska?
Yeah. 2017 we were in Alaska. This is just a shot of the outlet channel from the Glacier Lagoon into the out into the ocean. And this is part of our group boarding one of the duck boats. So when we got onto the boat, I set my camera to the high continuous, so I was able to shoot 10 frames per second. So it was actually quite easy just to shoot 30 or 40 photos in a short amount of time, and this was the greatest part of the trip. So you'll see a lot of these. So if you're gonna sleep, watch a few of these and then you can close your eyes. But just great colors, and some of this stuff looks like it's actually sculpted. All right, one of my cue photos. When you're on a boat, they sent a small Zodiac out. This gentleman whacked off a piece of the ice from one of the icebergs, brought it over to our boat. We were able to break it into smaller pieces, and we dined on ice. It was quite cold, it was tasteless, and we were told that it was about 1,000 years old. That's him out in his little dinghy. That's a cormorant.
Is the water deep enough to hold the whole bird, or are they sitting on the bottom?
We'll get into that right now.
Cool.
Okay, so what do feet have to do with it? The area of the Glacier Lagoon is 6.5 square miles. The depth of the lagoon is in excess of 800 feet. So if you remember from your math class, about 10% of the iceberg is above the water line, about 90% below. I'm guessing that what I was shooting back here, these are probably 50 to 60 feet high, something like that. So. And they were just all different kinds of shapes, whatever. A rainbow. This is the discharge channel from the Glacier Lagoon. The water was moving estimated about 5 feet per second. So the icebergs would come down into the lagoon, and they would stay in there until they could melt enough that when high tide would come in, then they would go down the channel out into the ocean. This is down along the ocean front called Diamond Beach. You can see in the foreground that there were quite a few pieces of the ice that kind of congregate down there, waiting for the tides to come in. All right, so this is a little old lady. This is one of my cue photos. Actually, this is my wife. She's not the little old lady that I wanted to talk about. If you've been reading online within the last week, there was a story about a little old lady that decided she wanted a photo of herself on a piece of ice. So she waited out, got on the ice. After she did that, wave came in, took her out. Fortunately, there was a guy from Florida that wasn't too far away. He ran out and saved her. We were told specifically not to sit on the ice. And you notice that she wasn't doing that. I think she was thinking about it. But just a few shots in Diamond Beach. Great colors. All right, so the Blue Lagoon is very popular in Iceland. It was kind of talked up on our tour. It's a shot from the water surface. So when I found out that this is what you look like, after you dive into the Blue Lagoon, I decided I wasn't going in. So, one of the things on the tour, we were told that we would have a good opportunity to see the Northern Lights or the Aurora Borealis. Unfortunately, when the skies opened up at night in Reykjavik, we happened to be remote. They did see the Northern Lights. This happens to be a shot that we took when we were in the Dawson City in Yukon. So I want to thank you, and I ask you to just sit tight for one more photograph, if you would. Our oldest daughter is a pediatric urgent care pharmacist at Children's Hospital in Minneapolis. And when she's not working there, she is a gifted ceramic artist. So she gave me this pot of hers and said, "Dad, take this and shoot it wherever you go." So I did. And it happens to be the lead-in photograph for an article that was published in Pottery Making Illustrated. It's a nationally distributed magazine. There are 12 other photos in the series that go with it, depicting how she applies her designs to the clay bodies. And I thought you may be interested in this one because I actually shot this down in front of the Roadhouse on one of the milk cans out there. It's got great patina, and they thought that, okay, the milk can and the colors in the pot itself, just kind of hit it up. So she got published nationally, and I did too, kind of indirectly.
See, this is a very talented family, including Jeff, who's got a lot of talent. And we thank you, Jeff, very, very much. Makes you want to go to Iceland, although now I won't have to because I've seen the best that you could see.